This is Special Report.
Yet comes upon one of the strangest things in existence.
Neil Armstrong may have seen extraterrestrials on the moon.
When he spies a discernible shape.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
You can deny all the things I've seen, all the things I've discovered, but not for much longer. Because too many others know what's happening out there. And no one, no government agency has jurisdiction over the truth.
Welcome, everybody, to Full Spectrum Universe. My name is Rob Yonks. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We have an incredible show for you today. I have two guests that work together. They are absolutely amazing. Their information is bar none some of the best I've seen in a long time. And as you saw from the poster, it's Star Family Wisdom, and that's Jenna Layden and Sinéad Whelehan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce the podcast and I'm going to introduce them. So about the podcast, Star Family Wisdom is a paradigm-shifting podcast, community, online school for spiritual and cosmic evolution. Hosted by Jenna Layden and Sinéad Whelehan. On the Star Family Wisdom podcast, they share conversations, ideas, and information that will inspire you and support you on this wild journey of being human. Explore ancient clues about our untold human story and real-life supernatural experiences, lost knowledge from the stars, and spiritual wisdom that empowers you to transform your life for the better. So let's go to the hosts real quick. We have Jenna, who is a former global vice president for Whole Foods Market and has been leading teams and individuals through change and transformation for over 15 years. As an experiencer of supernatural phenomena and ET contact, Jenna has developed a passion for helping humans embrace a multidimensional reality without fear. Through those experiences, Jenna began remembering lives of Earth and is now focused on her mission in this life, to be a teacher of the lost knowledge and wisdom from the stars. In early 2021, Jenna founded Star Family Wisdom, an online educational platform and community where you can access programs, products, and digital courses on spirituality, shamanism, ET contact, and personal evolution. She is also a member of the Cherokee Nation in Oklahoma and is a passionate advocate for the Indigenous communities and wisdom keepers who have been fierce protectors of humanity's original wisdom. And then we have Sinéad. Sinéad holds a combined 25 years of experience as a special needs educator, youth mentor, social justice advocate, and diversity, equality, and inclusion consultant. She is also a lifelong experiencer of ET contact and supernatural phenomena, and is a researcher and interviewed assistant for the international known ufologist Grant Cameron for 2 years. As a deaf woman, a large part of Sinéad's spiritual path has been learning how to listen deeply on multiple levels and using other senses and intuition. With a heartfelt passion for supporting spiritual growth and learning, Sinéad is now channeling her energy into encouraging our inherent collective awareness in a 3D dualistic paradigm and multidimensional reality. By supporting growing awareness of humanity's contact with the star races and the spiritual energies of our Earth, Sinéad has studied energy healing, Reiki, psychic development, Tibetan Buddhism, Peruvian shamanism, yoga, animal communication, and meditation, and is particularly interested in ancient indigenous wisdom, and is now co-host of the Star Family Wisdom podcast and partners with Jenna Layden in the development of the Star Family Wisdom online learning school and brand. So without further ado, let's bring on Jenna and Sinéad. Hello, ladies. How are you?
Hey, Rob. It's good to see you. We're doing well.
We're doing great. It's excellent to meet you, Rob. Thanks so much for having us tonight.
It is an honor and a privilege to have you guys here. This is going to be in such an epic conversation. One of the things that we all see eye to eye on is identificating for them.
Uh-oh, is Rob's internet connection
There we
break?
go. Of course, as soon as we start talking, it happens. We were just fine. But I love the indigenous cultures. I have like the minutest amount of Iroquois Native American in me from my family on my father's side. And one of the things that I've immersed myself in is indigenous studies and the mythologies and the legends, the rituals, ceremonies, and things of that nature. And I think we all hold, the same respect for that culture and what it does to bring us back to our symbiotic relationship with the great mother and earth. And I want, in your words, I just gave the whole rundown for star family wisdom. I want you both to tell me what it means to you. So we'll start with Jenna and then Sinead.
Thank you for that question, Rob. That's a great place to start. And thank you for that beautiful introduction. I think when I reflect on what star family wisdom is and, what we're doing here, it really is about bringing back to the forefront humanity's original wisdom, right? We know, the three of us through the work we've done and, our research and our journey, that there is so much wisdom that is available to us that we can activate in our lives. And, it's my belief that that wisdom, the indigenous wisdom on our planet, came from the stars, and that our star brothers and sisters delivered that wisdom to us, and that we lost it, over a period of time. And so through this work, we are attempting to help people reconnect with their true origins, their true heritage, and through that, the stars. So it's really about awakening humanity and helping people on this journey as we're remembering who we are, and we're remembering our story, our true story, and we're remembering that we have had contact with the star races for thousands of years and we just forgot. So it's really about helping people remember.
Couldn't agree more. Sinead, how about you?
What star family wisdom means to me, I would add to what Jenna said, that I think our inherent knowledge and wisdom that we've carried, in our DNA, in our sort of collective consciousness, in our individual consciousness, in information channels, not as much as they should be, but they're still there. This wisdom has carried forward over thousands of years. And I think that, to add to what Jenna was saying about it coming from the stars, I think that because the earth herself is a living conscious being, right? She's going through her own cycles and her own evolutionary process. And so wisdom, a great deal of wisdom also comes up from her. So the way that I see it is we are in a very valuable position, because we're between two incredible forces. There's the general universe, the stars, the galaxy, all the beings that are out there. And then there's also this deep, powerful, and very, very, very old consciousness and wisdom of Mother Earth, which is constantly feeding us. And we know that there are spirits in nature. I mean, this is something else that Indigenous people have also talked about for a really long time, right? That there's consciousness in every living thing, in a plant, in a leaf. There is consciousness, there is life, right? There's an energetic force that is not just represented by the physicality of whatever that being is. So for me, star family wisdom is such a wonderful opportunity to engage with that wisdom, with that, with all the things that I love. I'm a major nerd. Jenna is too. We love saying that. You too. This is something that surprised me when I first came into this community. The stigma about our community is so the other way, right? Like, everybody's a nut bar who is off the beaten track, who, they're uneducated. They don't know how to think their way through things. It is so not true. The people that I meet in this community are the most thoughtful, curious, seeking kind of people who really seek out information that's there. It's a community that is at the forefront, I think, of human evolution. And so star family wisdom really allows me to live in that space. And that makes me so just enthusiastic about life. It really feels like this is where I want to live, in this space of thinking and growing and sharing this information that is available to us, not just from the ancient past, but also in the present and around us all the time. So I love that we have come together to share our journey, those of others, and all this amazing information that's out there. That's really what it is for me.
I love that.
add too, Rob, that, you know, there are so many people having extraordinary experiences, right? Like supernatural experiences, mystical experiences, ET experiences. And for many years, that was kind of, you know, brushed aside, right? We didn't want to look at that. We didn't want to like acknowledge it and talk about it and figure out how we integrate that into our lives and the way our civilization operates. And you know, I'm one of those people that started having extraordinary experiences after, you know, being an atheist and not being a woo-woo person, you know, my whole life. And and there's so many people having those experiences, and we want to be a support system for them.
Amazing. That, you know, I love the enthusiasm, and it's just what you both said was absolutely beautiful. And, you know, it's kind of funny, Jenna, that, you know, a lot of the people who start off with that kind of atheist mentality sometimes get hit the hardest with that transition period and that awakening, or that contact, or that moment that kind of transforms them. So, you know, we'll go around the table again, and I just want to ask you, what started this journey for you? So we'll start with Jenna, and then we'll go to Sinead right after. But because I want the people to get to know both of you, because you are vastly intelligent with your information, and you know your stories are amazing too. So I want to let people hear it too on you know, my channel. I know you guys have yours, but my audience may know you, they may not. I know you guys do really well on Instagram, but I want them to know you because I love how you guys tell kind of your story. So go ahead.
Thanks, Rob. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a background as being atheist, right? For my entire life, was not a religious person, really thought all of this was an accident. that, you know, we're just here on this planet trying to figure out what we're doing here. Thought it was an accident. And, you know, had a career in leadership at Whole Foods for many years. So I was very focused, you know, in that world in corporate America. And it wasn't until about 5 years ago that I went through a major breakup, and it was a significant relationship, and one that I recognize now as a significant soul bond. And that breakup sent me into this like dark night of the soul, this like deep depression that I'd never experienced before. And it was in that place that, you know, I was seeking, you know, I was questioning, like, why am I feeling these emotions so intensely? Because I had never felt emotions that intensely, and I had been married and divorced, you know. And so it was like one of those moments that was really startling, and like I was trying to figure out what was going on, you know, under the surface. And that eventually led me to studying, you know, a lot of different things about past life regression and NDEs, but that didn't really start until one particular moment happened where I started experiencing quantum entanglement with this person. And I knew enough about quantum physics at the time to wonder, is this just a theory, or am I experiencing it in real life here? You know, and I was experiencing some telepathic type of, you know, psychic connections with this person that, again, I was a little skeptical of, but thinking, well, this is strange. Like, how is this happening? You know? And so that started to kick off this series of events and this kind of series of, you know, research, you know, that I did. And you know, one thing led to another, and looking back now, it really feels like it was all very much guided, you know, that I was given this opportunity to have this major, you know, kind of breakdown experience in my life to crack me open, you know, to help me see things differently, and to see that, yeah, we are all connected, and that telepathic psychic abilities are actually real, and that happens when we form these close energetic bonds with people. And so, you know, I was starting to acknowledge all of that. I was doing a little bit of, you know, research on past life and NDE, you know, case studies, because I'd stumbled upon some of that information. And so I was waking up fast, right? I was starting to acknowledge, I think I have a soul. I think, you know, my soul's connected to this other soul. I think maybe we've had a past life together. Maybe that's why this is happening. And I set an intention to know more about that because I was curious about it. And I was in a deep meditation. I'd started to practice meditation. I was learning, you know, how to quiet my mind and, you know, get to that still place, which is hard, you know, if you're new to it, but I spent a lot of time on that. And in a meditation one day, I had 2 spontaneous past life visions happen. They came in so fast and so instantaneous that there was no time for like my conscious mind to make up what came in and what I saw. And as soon as I saw those visions, I immediately made the connection between that life and this life. It was like I just knew. I had this just knowing come over me as to what those things were and how they were like connecting to the storyline of what was going on in this life. And so sure enough, I had had a similar experience in a past life. You know, I had been with this person in a past life. We had not been able to be together. And I had experienced, you know, other similar situations, which is why I had had this really intense, you know, kind of emotional reaction around that breakup, right? Because it was kind of a pattern that was repeating from life to life. So then I'm in this place, right, of like acknowledging past lives and, you know, waking up to our spiritual reality, learning about that, feeling more comfortable with that. And then the ET contact started. so, you know, I'm not too far along into my awakening when this started. And the way it started was receiving messages. So at the time, I didn't know what they were or who they were. And fast forward, you know, quite a few months, I got to the point where I was recognizing these messages coming in as helpful, right? It wasn't something to be afraid of or scared of. You know, it was helping me. You know, I was getting guidance in my life when I was struggling with something. And so I questioned where it was coming from. And I thought maybe it's a guide or an angel, because I was, you know, acknowledging that maybe that's a thing, you know, at that point. But then I continued to, you know, do research and was just kind of following this path, right? As I was learning more, I was getting more curious, and I was getting curious about ET related stuff. I'd always been fascinated by space, always like fascinated by the idea of what's out there. Like, how could we be alone? Like, that just seems absurd, right?
Statistically impossible almost, you know,
Right.
in that sense.
Yeah. Like it seems like so strange that would be a thing. So yeah, I was always fascinated by space. And I was reading a book about ET abduction cases because I had stumbled upon some information about abduction cases. I was curious, you know, I thought, well, maybe this is happening. Maybe there's something to this. It was within the first couple of pages of reading John Mack's book. John Mack was a Harvard professor of psychiatry. Pick up his books if you've not checked them out. He did a lot of work with people who are abductees, who have had experiences that their subconscious mind has repressed. And it was in the first couple pages of reading his book that I had a huge emotional release. And, you know, when we have huge emotional releases, sometimes that is, you know, something suppressed trying to come out, right? Like something's trying to get our attention. And I recognized in that moment, like, I think I have some sort of connection here. Like, why is this happening? Like, why is this emotional release happening? Have I been abducted? Like, what's happening here? It's right. Because I'd had just a lot of other strangeness, right? Like the messages coming in, other strange synchronicities. This happened. And at the time I thought, I think I need a regression. I think I might need to see if I have some suppressed memories. I think I need to see if maybe I'm a person who has had contact with ETs. And I was kind of scared about it. You know, like that's a big thing to explore and uncover.
Of course.
And a lot of those cases are traumatic for people, right? So, you know, I thought, well, gosh, if I go through with a regression, like what's going to come out? Like, what am I going to have to face? You know, and that was kind of scary. So it took me a while. I'm almost at the end here. I'll wrap up and pass it over.
No worries.
But the big turning point in me recognizing that whatever was happening with me around a lot of the supernatural phenomena, the visions, the messages, you know, the emotional release, you know, whatever was happening around, you know, these things, ultimately I arrived at the place of feeling like this was not a bad thing that was happening to me, because there was an incident, what I know now to be a contact incident that was kind of funny and not, you know, nothing to be afraid of. And so for anyone in the audience who's not familiar with Daryl Anka is a channel of an ET interdimensional being named Bashar. I had stumbled upon Daryl's work. I'd stumbled upon his channeling of Bashar, and I was very intrigued. I had acknowledged psychic connections, right, or a real thing, that maybe this is a real thing, but I was highly skeptical. I was still in a very highly skeptical place. I was watching Daryl Anka's documentary one night, attempting to learn more and open up, a bit. And I got skeptical and I turned it off. And so this is the documentary about Bashar. And within seconds of turning off the documentary, I had food arrive at my front door. I'd ordered food for dinner earlier. And within seconds, I got a pop-up on my phone that said, "Your food has been delivered by Bashar."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like Bashar contacted me.
Literally said your food's here. And it's not just, sustenance food, it's food for thought. Take it with you.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. So in that moment, I'm like, did I just get contacted by Bashar? What the heck is happening here? But after I kind of processed that, I was like, okay, well, this is kind of funny. Like, I think Bashar might be real, and I think stuff's happening that I need to figure out, and it doesn't appear to be bad. So I'm going to do the regression. So fast forward, I did the regression, and I learned that, yes, I had been in contact with ETs. They were attempting to get my attention. The ETs I was in contact with are souls I have had lives with, souls I have bonds with. And so that's what has facilitated the telepathic connection in this life, one of the reasons. And that they had been, supporting me in awakening. And that's why a lot of the information was just coming to me at just the right time and just the right way for me to absorb it, so that this wouldn't be something so overwhelming that I ultimately, couldn't understand. So they were helping me progress in my journey in a way that I would ultimately arrive at the fact that, yeah, we're not alone, and that I've been them. I've had lives in other civilizations. My last life was in another civilization, not here on Earth, and that, I still have a connection with that civilization, and that ultimately, I'm meant to support what we're doing here and bringing this information forward. And during that regression, they actually channeled through me at one point, and kind of took over and started, delivering their message, their guidance. And we actually have some clips of the audio of my regression on our YouTube channel. So if anyone out there is curious about regression, maybe, if you feels a little weird about it, not quite sure about whether you want to go through with it or what it's like, what it sounds like, when you're in that process, you can check out a few clips. We'll post some more over time, because I want to be transparent, about my experiences and what has happened, and what, can come through us in regressed states, because we can access, higher intelligence in those states. So long story short, all of that led me to learning about my lives off Earth, led me to meeting Sinéad last year on this journey. And it was my star family that told me that I should be leaving Whole Foods to do this work. So I did.
That's incredible. And, I was kind of in a similar situation too, where I had that 9 to 5, and now I'm just completely vested in the research and doing this. And, it's a big step. It's a big step, but that if you put it out there, the universe will provide in some form or fashion in some way. So that's, incredible story. Sinéad, you're up.
Oh gosh. What was the question again?
What was that moment, or what led you to your awakening process that brought you to now?
Okay, so my story is in some ways similar to Jenna, but in some ways different. So my experiences are lifelong. The earliest I remember something happening is when I was 4 years old. And that was so I have this thing about threes. My paranormal threes are incredibly potent as a number, as a pattern. 3-3, 3-3-3. And what's interesting, I used to just get 3, then I started getting 3-3, and then now it's 3-3-3. So I don't know if that means, but it's a very dominant pattern in my life, particularly when it comes to my paranormal experiences and my ET experiences, and any form of high strangeness. So when I was 4, I had 3 things happen that were very pivotal for me, and that's what I think was a major turning point in my life. And it also, when I kind of realized that, um, because it's interesting, you have your awakening, you become deeper, you go deeper into this world, and then your deepening understanding of your actual nature and your purpose on life makes you able to reflect back on your life, all the things that have happened previously, and then you can make more sense of things that previously didn't make sense, right? So all my life, age 4 for myself was just something that would come up for me a lot, and I never really understood why that was. I thought, I must be stuck on age 4 for some reason, and I need to just get over it, basically, right? But then it was really my guides like, hello, you need to pay attention to the fact that that's when we really started coming through to you. So I had 3 major experiences when I was 4, and then I've always been extremely sensitive and extremely empathic, telepathic, had future visions, had ESP, had a lot of experiences that I was aware of at the time. But it was interesting how they would occur because, first of all, I never told anybody. The path I'm on in this life has involved me being, I'm going to say alone a lot, but I don't mean that to sound like, the world's tiniest violin. It's just, it's the contract I signed up for in this lifetime. It's just my karma. It definitely was not easy, but it's taught me so much. I would not trade it for anything. So I just want to say that. But because I was sort of a child who was really on my own, coping with life the best way that I could by myself without a lot of guidance, it meant that I didn't really have anyone to go to say, hey, this strange thing is happening, or I knew exactly what Christmas gifts mom was going to give me, or, people call on the phone and I always know who it is before you pick up the phone. Like, why are these things happening? There was nobody I could say that to. So I had this experience of it being totally my own thing, and knowing that there was something about it that was special to me, but not having any other way of understanding it, and when you're a child, you don't think like you do when you're an adult. You just kind of accept when things happen. You don't analyze them. You're not trying to put them into categories. You're not trying to color code them. You're just having your experience. And at the time, it just felt normal to me, and it felt familiar. It's always felt familiar. So that's something that I also knew, didn't really know. There's these different levels of awareness and knowing that I've come into as I've gone further on my path. So that's kind of I have bajillions of stories I could tell you, but I'm trying to keep it, succinct. So I had a number of unusual experiences for many, 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 many years. Many, many, many years of pretty intense struggle, of high anxiety, really high stress, depression, just having a difficult time in life with, relationships, with achievement, with self-esteem, with all kinds of things. And I realize now that all of those things have served a purpose because I, first of all, think that I probably chose to go through those experiences to learn certain things that would make me stronger, right? So that I'd be able to do this kind of work now. Not that I don't have any flaws. I mean, I'm still working on myself. I think that's an eternal journey. But because I chose this path, and because I was saying yes to opportunities to learn, even though it was very difficult, then, all the slogging through the muck essentially started to kind of pay off. I'm going to put it that way. And so my contact experiences started to come back into my life after a long period of being deeply disconnected with myself and deeply just way off path, from my purpose. And I was a public school teacher for special needs kids. I mean, I knew I was doing valuable work. I loved my students, but I was just miserable. I was working in this system that, was not really serving the human part of the system, the actual people, the human beings, the students and the staff that live within the system. I found that disheartening, and then also was just going through my own personal challenges. And so like Jenna, who went through this dark night of the soul, I really think there's a point to having these periods of time that we just feel like we're at the bottom of some really dark pit, because then there's nowhere to go but up. And that's often where awakenings happen or breakthroughs happen. So the first step I took was going to Peru in 2017, and that's the first time I met ETs. I was inside a UFO very briefly, and then I met a whole bunch of ETs who greeted me with this massive amount of enthusiasm that I'd never experienced before. And they were light beings; they were made of light. And so at the time, I was like, "Oh, yeah, that was wow, that was a really amazing experience." But I mean, I didn't know where to put it. Right? I wasn't really getting it, even though they were saying to me, "We're going to take you up into space. Like, come with us. We've been waiting all this time to see you." You know, and so I came back from Peru, changed, but not aware of this door that had opened in my consciousness, in my being, right? That then allowed for the next thing to happen. So the next thing that happened was I had a gigantic, well, there were many things that happened between 2017 and 2019, but in 2019, I'm a deaf woman and I have 2 cochlear implants, which help me hear. So I had my second surgery. It's a major surgery for my second cochlear implant in the summer of 2019. And because they go into your inner ear system and kind of mess around in there to do the surgery, then you get dizzy afterwards for about 2 weeks. And so there wasn't a lot that I could do, right? So I was kind of lying around and I'm watching movies and whatever. Long story short, I think that being in that place of having to just be still and be with myself and not be distracted by work, by shopping, by whatever, I couldn't do anything but lie down. I think that led to a sort of degree of receptivity that helped me connect to what had happened before, that then resulted in me essentially getting this massive awakening. Like, just, I can't possibly describe what this experience was like. But to give you an idea, first of all, I used the phrase getting bonged over the head with a cosmic frying pan. I mean, that's really what it felt like. It was like, you know, totally undeniable experience. And the vibration was so massive that I was vibrating at this higher level, at this energetic level that I'd never experienced before. I mean, maybe little bits, but not like this. And it, no word of a lie, continued 24/7 for several months. It went on until, this is at the beginning of July. It probably went on until October, definitely through September, which is when I met Grant Cameron. And that was not an accident. I was led to that. I was led to meeting him. So then it was like being in the path of a fire hose, like just all the contact was unbelievable. I was just having regular contact with them. And then I started thinking I was crazy, right? Like lots of us do. And so I basically, you know, got very upset one day because I was getting a bit stressed out by the paradigm shift, right? By the sudden sharp juxtaposition between the reality I had known and then what the heck is happening now, right? So I asked them to prove it to me. I begged them, and I heard them hear me. I felt them hear me. I felt them there with me, hearing me. And then the next day, they proved it to me in a way that is completely undeniable. Like, you absolutely cannot. You know, I can tell you this whole story, but it's a long one. But it was an undeniable proof. And so since then, they just keep showing up, and the communication keeps expanding in new ways. And so the latest thing that happened was one of them showed up in front of me during a C5 presentation with about 50 people at an event last summer. So things continue to happen, and I just know I have their support, and they keep teaching me surrender, surrender, and trust, and surrender, and trust, and surrender. And the more I do that and just have faith in the universe and, you know, keep elevating my consciousness so that I can meet the universe and meet what the universe is helping me to do, the more it happens. It's really extraordinary. Yeah.
That's incredible stories. And, you know, the surrender part is hard for so many people, because like you said, it comes in stages. It's not just just give yourself over to whatever the belief is or whatever you're doing at that time. And that's incredible. During a conference, you just all of a sudden see them and they have a message for you. I think that's absolutely amazing. And I love Grant too. I've been on panels with Grant and talked to Grant, and he talks very fast.
Yes.
So I have to keep up with him. But, you know, we love Grant here. And, you know, one of the things that I have a feeling of when you're both telling your story is that once this awakening process happened, going back and reevaluating certain situations changes the dynamic of those situations and what they are.
Mm-hmm.
And emotionally and physically, it has an effect on you. I mean, is that am I correct in saying that? I guess I should say is probably the right way to say it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think karmic, patterns that play out in our lives sometimes, are these like deep emotional wounds, that we were just not aware of, and when we can start to track back, at least, for myself and, my journey around, some of those wounds that were past life related, and you can track back and see the connections, that are forming between a past life and this life, or even, experiences from your early childhood, like, in Sinead's example to, now these experiences, happening, more consciously as an adult. It's so fascinating and healing, right? To identify those connections and to, like you said, Rob, view it from a different perspective, right? Like it's about, expanding our perspective and finding, the lesson and the growth opportunities in all the things that happen to us, whatever they are, whether from past lives or this life. Yeah.
Absolutely. And one of the things I always touch on too is the people who are in secret space program. Once they realize that they're in that secret space program, they go back and they look at all their lives, and it's like so many things are different for them. Like they have this tremendous like just download of information of all these different things, and I think it's incredible. So I kind of wanted to pivot a little bit onto the courses that you guys are giving on Star Family Wisdom. Can you tell us what they in detail and what lay out some of the groundwork of what they are?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll take that one. So, Sinead, jump in if I miss anything. There's a lot. We have a lot of products. So there's kind of four main categories we focus on. We've got courses and products centered around manifestation. So creating your reality, how to shift mindset, move out of a victim, mentality or place of living to really truly becoming the conscious creator of your reality and learning how to create with the universe. So my favorite course is the Masters of Manifestation course, which gives you everything I have learned and downloaded, from my star family around manifestation and creation and helping to reprogram and rewire our minds, right, to experience the reality we want to experience, along with doing some of that healing work, right, and some of that shadow work to heal the past so we can, inform a better future for ourselves. So that course is really transformative, and you get a full toolkit as well. So you get like 6 manifestation meditations, multiple shamanic journeys, meditations that help you access, parts of your subconscious for that healing process. You get downloadable tools like a manifestation journal, a life vision workbook. You get moon ceremony guides, right? Because we love to work with nature, like Sinead was saying, right? Working with Mother Earth and the cosmos around us can be a really profound way for us to take control, right, of our reality and to work with the rhythm, right, of nature. And so there's just tons of tools that you get in that course as well, that you get to keep forever. So it's like you have this manifestation toolkit you can immediately put into place. We also sell that separately. So if you're not into taking the full course and you just want the tools to get started, to get your practices going, you can buy that. And then we also have affirmations that you can buy and download. You can sign up for free daily affirmation emails as well. So if you're on your spiritual evolution path and and working towards becoming that higher version of yourself, take advantage of that, and you'll get guidance every single day and some inspiration there. And then we have a few spirituality courses as well for people who are maybe beginners or kind of new to this journey. So we have an Awaken 101 course, which is just all about, past lives, NDEs, kind of the basics of different spiritual traditions and how to build a spiritual practice. We have a spiritual protection and cleanse course. So if you're interested in really learning how to start shifting energy and calling in protection, connecting with your guides, that's a great resource. And then we have a course on the spiritual laws of the universe. This is one of the things that I found so fascinating about this journey and this connection with the ETs, because again, coming from a former atheist, here I am teaching about the spiritual laws of the universe, and had this kind of downloaded to me last year, along with most of the other content, in the courses. So learning how to work with the spiritual laws of the universe and get into a state of harmony, right, with life around us and within ourselves, and our energy body and physical body is really important. So that's a great resource as well. And then we have a few ET courses. We have a Meet the Star Races course. So if you are curious about who they are, where they come from, what we know about them, you can grab that one. And then we have a UFOs and Preparing for Contact course. So I see Sugar Bee, you just watched a moonfall. We've got some info about the moon in there, so you can check that out. And then we also have, thanks, Rob. That's great. So we also have a course on shamanism and a few other shamanic tools, because shamanism, and like we talked about at the beginning, indigenous wisdom is really important in Sinead and I's lives. And so we want to share that with the world. And, beginning a shamanic practice really can help you just reconnect with yourself and with the earth in a much deeper way than, I've experienced in other, practices. And so, I've gone really deep in my shamanic practice. I'm now a master energy medicine practitioner. And so, I bring some of that into that course. And then there are a few quantum journeys, which are just like deep guided meditations that people can access, again, to connect with that deeper part of ourselves, and to understand, what's ready to come up for healing, or to connect with a higher destiny, right? To go into a place where you can connect with future timelines and start to shift the timelines that, you're working with. So we've got tons of great tools and resources, and more on the way. And there's a free library too. So get started in the free library as well. You can get lots of good freebies there.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible.
Yeah, we formed a partnership with a really wonderful woman named Nadi Hanna, who is an expert on crop circles and sacred geometry, and her delivery is so fantastic. She gets excited and passionate just like we do. She just loves it. And it is absolutely remarkable material. I mean, Jenna and I, we could tell you this whole thing about how Nadi, I was in Sedona a little while ago. I'm in Toronto, Canada. I'm a Canadian. So I was in Sedona visiting Jenna. And Nadi's there as well. So she came over to do a run through for us of a presentation she was about to do in San Francisco the following week at a conference. And Jenna and I both had this experience that we did not expect at all, that continued for maybe 2 or 3 days afterwards. I mean, it's really high vibrational stuff, because sacred geometry and crop circles are essentially light codes, right? So we receive this sort of energetic transmission in a way when we look at them, and it's completely in our subconscious, in our energy field. But often if you're tuned in, or you're trying to be receptive, you're meditating on that, you can feel it, and the effect is something else. It's supposed to activate very old parts of ourselves that are essentially the cosmic parts of ourselves that are interconnected with all the other beings in the universe. So Nadi has some beautiful content, and that is also on Star Family Wisdom, and she's got her own website as well. But we're so happy to have her working with us. She's just something else. Yeah. So we want to keep growing and, keep developing beautiful material that is really engaging and accessible, and, really lands for people. We don't want it to be too basic. We don't want it to be too lofty. We want it to be accessible for everyone. And the delivery of that is very important to us. So yeah, we're careful about how we communicate the content as well. We really want it to be clear and to land for people. Yeah.
So yeah, sacred geometry. Thank you. I totally forgot about sacred geometry. Yeah, it's incredible what you can do with sacred geometry and how you can connect, with your star family. If you want to connect, that's a tool you can use.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, it sure is.
It's so incredible. It's so incredible. I actually signed up for your the emails to come through every day too, so I can stay on par with what you guys are doing. I think it's absolutely incredible, and all of that information is literally at people's fingertips. I've put in the description of this video the websites, and also in the chats as it's running down, you'll see I put twice. I've put the website out there so people can engage and grab that website and take all those courses. I think this is our time to take our foot and stand and like you said, stand on the shoulders of those who came before us and kind of give this information. I've also put your YouTube up in the chat as well, so people can subscribe there. Let's help everybody's got to grow together. We're a collective. And a question I had for you is, when did it go back to that shamanism, and what brought that about, especially coming from an atheist background? And and Sinead, was it prominent in your life for most of it, or was it something you guys kind of went back into?
Yeah, Sinead, do you want to start?
Sure. So I have studied the beginning stages of Peruvian shamanism. I personally believe that because shamanism is such a sophisticated methodology and it's so ancient and so powerful, it needs to be treated with, real respect, just like any other form of learning. And so I wouldn't call myself a shaman yet. I would say I'm on the shamanic path. I would say that I'm gathering knowledge and practice in shamanism. So for me, it's a natural connection with Peruvian shamanism. The way that I discovered that was going to Peru and just feeling this uncanny feeling of familiarity with the land. And, I had extraordinary experiences there, many of them that really helped me realize I'd had a life there before. I had a vision of a past life there. So that is definitely a major connection for me. But I've also always, and this is one of the things I couldn't explain earlier in my life, had a deep emotional connection with Indigenous history and what happened to our First Nations people, what they went through, and the amazing symbiotic wisdom that, when I say symbiotic, I mean earth and cosmic together, involved with each other in their education, I guess you could say, the knowledge that they passed on in generations. It wasn't just about being human. It was about the human connection with nature, with the earth, with the cosmos, and how all those things were conjoined and working together as one. And when essentially colonists or colonialists came along, they really, and this was meant to happen for some reason on Earth, but what the Indigenous people went through was so just devastating to their culture and to their societies that a lot of that wisdom was lost. So I just felt this very strong connection with it. I don't know why. I don't know how it came into my life, but I had experiences like when I was in grade 8. I had just moved to a new part of the city and a new school, and we went on a school trip. And I don't remember where we were, but I remember this one room that we were in where there was an Indigenous group that had come in to do a ceremony for us and to show us how the ceremony was done, teach us about it, and do some drumming. And I could not handle it. I just was overwhelmed with emotion, and I started sobbing when the drumming started. Here I am, 13 years old, the new kid, just like, what the hell is happening right now? I couldn't explain why I had that reaction. Then later on, when I was about 18, I had a spontaneous past life regression where I was back in my body in some previous life as a male Indigenous person, looking at the land, having that person's emotions, having that person's thoughts, living that person's life. So obviously I've been there before, and I've been told by several intuitive psychics, mediums, that I've been Indigenous many, many times, but on different planets as well as Earth. So I think I just have this past life pattern of a very strong Indigenous wisdom, ancient wisdom connection, and that it is inherently part of me, and I can't not have it as part of my life. It is just part of my path. So these things have just sort of appeared, and that's partially why I think trying so hard to be tuned in, no matter how much suffering we go through, is so important, because then the universe shows us what we need or brings it back to us. So I think I'd return to it to answer your question. But I think it's also been something I've invited more and more into my life, because it's had such a powerful effect on how I view many things: healing, reality, myself, nature. Mm-hmm.
It's incredible. I mean, I can relate to a lot of what you just said, Sinead. And I believe that through regression, I've been told that I've had Indigenous past lives as well. And it kind of was drawn to it. I have a very, very small amount in my heritage in this life, but I was drawn to it, just really drawn to it, no matter what it was. And it came down to the stories and how they affected me. And while reading and listening to the stories being told, it it does something to you. It affects you physically, but also emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And it's just this connection to it. And I agree with you. Jenna, how about you?
Yeah, so my story's similar in that, it was really a returning, to it. While I'm Cherokee and a member of the tribe, I didn't grow up in the culture in Oklahoma. So I grew up, very much outside of the culture in the city, Western white world, right? And so, for the majority of my, early adulthood, I just was not that connected, with that. But I was curious, and I always kind of had an intention to reconnect, with my Cherokee ancestry and learn more, because I was fascinated by it, but just hadn't really, gone beneath the surface much. And so, I'd say about like 8 years ago, I developed a fascination with Peru. So similar to Sinead, I started having this kind of Peruvian connection form. But at the time, I was not, on this path. But I was just studying everything I could about the Incan culture and what happened with the conquistadors. And so I was just really deep into that research and was setting this intention that I need to go to Peru. I need to go to Peru. Well, then fast forward, on this spiritual awakening journey that began 5 years ago, I started being guided, towards Indigenous wisdom. And, I started getting more and more curious about what was missing, from my life there. And so I started, studying Indigenous origin stories and learning about, my tribe and even their connection with the star races and what they believe to be true around our origins, the Cherokee origins being from the Pleiades. And so, I started during the ET contact journey also forming these connections around Indigenous wisdom and our origin stories here on Earth. And then I happened to find myself in a weekend workshop where then I was offered this opportunity to study deeper with the Four Winds Society and Alberto Violdo, who is acting as a bridge between one group of Peruvian shamans, the Quero shamans, which are a very ancient group, an ancient lineage. So when I started connecting with this school and with the shamans that the Four Winds Society works with, I started to realize, the wisdom that I was connecting with and the practices I was connecting with, because I'd already been doing a lot of spiritual research and spiritual practice at that point. So I was able to kind of compare, right, and contrast. I was starting to recognize that the wisdom, coming from this group of shamans and the practices seemed so pure and so ancient. Like they've been untouched by modern society. And Alberto will talk about how the Quero shaman in Peru are one of the few groups that escaped the conquistadors. They escaped the Spanish terror that happened in South America. And they went high into the Andes Mountains, and they've been living at 15,000 feet, high in the Andes Mountains, outside of, the cities and communities for hundreds of years, until the last few decades when they came out of the mountains and started making connections with the world and with Westerners, with Alberto, and have, said that it's their mission to deliver this wisdom to the world. And it's time for the world to know. And so, I want to reflect on what Sinead said too, about how, we have to be careful, right, about, when we assume certain titles or roles or call ourselves something. And I also believe it's really important that we honor and respect the origins of the wisdom and practices that we are engaging with. And I believe, it's not appropriate to call yourself a shaman until you have been through a full shamanic initiation, until you have kind of been blessed, by a shaman from that culture, which I have been, so I think it's important that, we don't just take a weekend workshop, right, and then start calling ourselves a shaman and we're doing all this shamanic practice, right? Like, it's deep. You have to go deep
Right.
on this work and this path to really integrate it. Yeah.
Yeah, it typically takes like a minimum of 10 years for someone to even start to call themselves a shaman. And it's also, there's so many people, we know this in any profession, right? There are people who could be totally qualified on paper, so to speak, but if they don't have the ability to use that knowledge in a way that is actually effective, then okay, you've got it on paper, but you're still not really a shaman or a doctor or a teacher or whatever it is, right? It comes with this other part of understanding that comes from you, not just from what you're reading or from what you're learning. It's the part of you that is wise, that is meeting that knowledge and then partnering with it, right? So there are many people who give themselves titles. This is something Jenna and I talk a lot about, and we think it's important to talk about this because the spiritual community is growing, and there are a lot of people who, may not have the greatest intentions. They want to do it maybe for profit, or there are people who are not actually very self-aware and think that they're a really highly realized being and present themselves that way, but are not really, So we feel like this journey of learning and progressing and evolving is eternal. And I certainly don't feel like I've arrived, I feel like, okay, I'm here in this life doing this work. I will keep learning. I will keep struggling, because that is what being human is essentially about. And on my deathbed, I'm sure I'll be feeling like, oh, I could have done more, but then there's another lifetime to learn. So, for Jenna and I, being discerning and really being authentic and coming from a place of integrity is extremely important to us. And so we want our content on our website, and we want the content that, how we present ourselves on our podcast to really reflect that we want to walk our talk. We're not just going to say we're the goddesses of this and that, and we can change everything in your life. You just have to take our course. That's not what we're about. And so
it's a journey. It's all a journey, right? And it's all a continual evolutionary process, that we're a part of. And and we just want to support that for people. And there's no, quick fixes, magic wands. There are magic wands. I have one, but it doesn't necessarily make all your problems go away overnight. But it's a journey. And if anyone's interested about the shamanic path or wants to start, to get initiated on the shamanic path, I am certified in the rites of the Munai Ki shamanic initiation process. It's a 10-week initiation. This is not where you learn everything about energy medicine, but this is where you start to get initiated on the path, and you start to learn some practices and ways you can integrate shamanic practice into your life, and it helps you connect energetically to the lineage of beings and supporters that we have in the energetic realms that can further your shamanic evolution. So we're actually offering that in July. So our 10-week program will start in July, and we'll have a couple of master classes in June that people can sign up for. So if you're interested, go to the shamanic page on Star Family Wisdom, and you can join the wait list for that and get some more information as we get closer.
I think this is incredible. And, I probably will be taking that course. And I loved what you said about, this is a journey. And one of the things that we like to say, me and my friend Omar, who's on Watchers Talk, when we work with Portal to Ascension a lot, but we like to call ourselves the forever students. This is what we're here for. We're all trying to level up, but we are always going to listen before we speak and make sure that we are ready to absorb the downloads, the information, or the uploads of whatever it may be. And I think that, that term, there's a couple of terms I'm going to throw out right now. Like, we're the ones that we've been waiting for, but it also comes with a responsibility of being able to disseminate and really go after the information and be mindful of, like you said, who's around us, who's projecting this information, what is their intention, and keeping our intentions in check as well as we do that, and I think that's so important. But the forever students I love that. I'm on the YouTube channel. If you join as a member, one of the levels is the forever students, because it's all about collaboration, and collaboration is the key, and bringing everybody together.
Absolutely. It's the journey, not the destination, right? Like, we're really hung up on, I find that human nature, we're so into controlling our environment in order to feel safe within it, that we need everything to be very carefully categorized and in neat rows and boxes. And if it isn't, it makes us really nervous, right? But we cannot have answers all the time. And I feel like it's not about the answers. It's about the journey, the discovery, and the joy of doing that, the joy of constantly not arriving. I mean, imagine if we just got there and it was the end.
That would be boring.
Yeah, it wouldn't be worth it at all. And that was me. I was that guy for a long time. Like, I need the answer. But
Mm.
now I've got that patience to just show me when it wants to. It's there. It just hasn't shown itself yet. Well, we'll get there.
I
And I
mean,
try and keep that
space of I
mindset.
don't know. Yeah, being in a space of I don't know is very powerful, right? Like
We've got eternity.
yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah. You know, another thing that I love that you're talking about is the information is the activation. The being in the knowing is really, and I'm coining Phil Gruber when I say that, but the information is the activation, and I love how you guys pronounce that and say this is what it is, and that learning about the indigenous peoples has been such for me a work on myself as opposed to just learning. It really has changed my life. So the fact that you've embodied that and really are using a lot of what our ancestors had laid down for us to learn, and that's what it's all about. I really feel like that is the journey for a lot of people, and encompassing that, because we need to get back to that sort of society, I guess we could say, instead of we need to save what's left of the mother, and making sure that we don't go further down a road of industrialism and AI, and we lose this connection to each other and to self. And that's why I love doing these episodes too, because I get to connect with like minds like you do and have these conversations. I mean, it's just, I have a ton of gratitude, and I'm very appreciative that you guys are here. I love what you're doing, and we're coming up on just about the end, but I want to give you guys each some time to just tell the people something that you think they need to hear. And whoever wants to go first. Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Sinead, you want to take a stab at that one first?
What they need to hear. Okay, well, first of all, I think that I know what your question means, but I'm just going to say that I believe that everybody is on their own path in their own way for a reason, and that we are all exactly where we need to be. I really firmly believe that. Even if we're in a really crappy place, I've been there many times, probably will be there again, I'm sure, because life comes with grief and hardship and, lots of things that we need to make our way through. But I would say, try your best to be where you are. Try not to be in the past or the future, which is where most of us are trained to live. We're trained to live in this sort of limbo of thinking about the past and, our wounds from the past and what our parents were like, and how we got bullied in school, or how our ex hurt us, or whatever it is. And that those echoes, we keep them with us, right? We carry them forward. And then we're thinking, when I get there, I'll be happy. When I make this happen, I will be happy. When I meet that kind of person, I will be happy. So there's a lot of inner collective psychology in this society, so much living there or back or forward, but not right here, right now. And that in itself, it sounds incredibly simplistic, but I'm a big believer in there being immeasurable depth in the simple, right? The simple is often deceptive. It seems to be simple, but really isn't. So I think that something that is simple is just saying, just take a breath, be in your body as much as you can, and just be here in your life, doing what you're doing right now, because there's a reason for it. And there's always something that you can learn that can benefit you in your evolution as a human being, no matter what it is. So I really encourage everyone to accept where they are, treat themselves with kindness, try not to feel like you need to be like anyone else in order to be spiritual, in order to be wise, in order to be realized. We all have our spiritual side and our wise side. We all have it. It is in there. We just need to bring it out and to allow ourselves to have the space to do that. So I would just say, be here now, take a breath, and just be with yourself, and accept your path and make the most of it along the way.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. I think we are going through a massive change and transformation on this planet, and there are a lot of problems to solve, and that can feel really overwhelming, especially as we do start to wake up to more of what needs to change, and as we start to see more, right, as our perspective starts to expand, right, our consciousness starts to expand. And as we are going through that awakening process, it's important that we remember it is not all ours to fix. And I think, a lot of us who are sensitive, who care deeply, about the world and about, like you said, Rob, saving the mother and helping our civilization, return to maybe its ancient ways and, and evolve beyond, kind of our current challenges. We feel that deeply, and so we can feel like we have to take on a lot, right, to solve those problems, and it's not all ours to carry. And so we have to remember to let go of some of that. That can be hard, right? It can be hard to kind of put up a blinder to some things, but that's healthy sometimes. That's okay to do, right? Because you also have to be centered and healthy in your body and yourself. And when we're just constantly triggered and bombarded by things, that's not healthy, right? What is healthy is taking, what we're feeling about those things in the world and channeling it in whatever way is our unique way to be of service, right? And that might be just one thing that you focus on, and that's okay, right? Because that's your unique way of being of service. And it's like what they say on the airplanes, right? Like we have to put our oxygen mask on first before we go help others. And so, if we're not focusing on ourselves and caring for ourselves and caring for our healing process and giving ourselves that time and space, because we are all healing from generations of trauma, generations of violence on this planet. And that takes work, and that takes alone time, and that takes, being with yourself and not trying to fix everything around you, right? Because when we work on ourselves and take that time for ourselves, we can then be even more effective, right? When we do go out in the world and contribute in whatever way we want to contribute. So, I know for myself, I felt a lot of pressure and responsibility for a long time to fix everything, right? And in my job and my career and the world, whatever it was, and I know a lot of people feel that way, and we're living in a really complex time. Our civilization's going through a quantum leap right now because we're at a critical juncture as a civilization, right? We have to make a quantum leap. We have to go through this awakening, to get to the other side of the challenges we're facing. And so that can feel complex and overwhelming, and it's okay to take a break from that when you need to, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was beautifully said by both of you. It's just, I love when people tell that at the end of every show, we kind of do this. We kind of ask, the people who are participating, what do you think people need to hear? And hearing the dynamic of what you both just said is like, it's so reaffirming for me as the host, and just learning from people who come on, and we do have to be in those moments, and we can't take on all those burdens, and we have to remember that we are the more effective when we are not. We have to get out of our own way, I guess, is the best way to put it, right? And I appreciate you guys coming through, and I want to set up a round table. I have a gentleman by the name of Hero who is a Lakota guardian, and with you two ladies and a couple of other people, I think we can have a tremendous conversation. We'll talk about that more off camera, but I would really love to do that, and it's going to be all about Indigenous studies and Indigenous mythologies and peoples, and I think we can really, really, break a few thresholds for people. And what I mean by thresholds is everybody has that moment where they go through and it engages them to do their own research. And I think that everybody has their own threshold and their that sparks their awakening. And I think that we'll definitely tackle quite a few of those. But with that being said, I just want to say that I appreciate you ladies. It's been an honor and a privilege to speak with you. This has been absolutely incredible. Guys, go to starfamilywisdom.com. Again, in the description and in the chat. Check out their work. Go to the YouTube, also in the chat. Ladies, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Rob. You're amazing. Thanks for the work you're doing in the world.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you also, Rob. I mean, we wouldn't be sitting here right now having this conversation if you didn't have this show, right? And people wouldn't be hearing us discuss these things if you didn't have this show. So thanks so much for creating what you created and for having us here and just your wonderful, enthusiastic support. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I look forward to working together more in the future. I think we could be a force to reckon with, that's for sure.
Yeah, we'll get that. There's never a coincidence there, is there?
Never. So With that being said, thank you, everybody. Ladies, thank you. And I believe we're going to call it a show.
All right.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.